This is now the enemy video that we've been waiting for. Appreciate the patience. And I want to go over just some quick details of it. First thing that I want to show you, which I thought was interesting, is now I have a fella here and a snake versus the truck and the motorbike. Now I did that because it's just going to be a lot easier to show you what I've been doing. And I just quickly here, I added a little bit in animation. You see my snake kind of moving around. That's just the sprite, right? The snake moving around. Showed a little bit more kind of lively. And then I got my little animation here with my guy. Okay, he's going to jump and be excited about stuff. Okay, so it's a little choppy. Some things I got to work on, but we're good, right? What I want to point out is I did have a truck here named Truck and a motorbike named Motorbike, but now I have a fella named a guy and this reptile named Snake. What was really cool is all my events remained the same. Like even after I deleted the truck and the motorbike, everything stayed the same here. It still said truck, it still said motorbike, and that's partly because of my object types being in my library and still kind of existing. All I had to do was go into this, double click, and change it from truck to guy, truck to guy. So that was a really easy kind of switch and swap for those of you looking to maybe do an update or a change on your own, okay? So here we are. We have a guy and we have a snake. Your enemy, whatever it may be, if it's something that's patrolling an area, if it's fruit flying in the air, it just has to be a sprite with some animation to it, which is really simple, right? I think by this point you can see that making animation isn't that bad, or it doesn't have to be too difficult. I simply created this fella, and then once I duplicated it, and you see I just slightly grabbed this little selection tool here and moved his head over a little bit and his tail over a little bit, just so it looks like he's kind of squirming along. And it's really that easy to kind of add that extra level of movement to your thing. By this point now, you should have kind of like a good space. You should have your layers worked out, which is on which and where it should go and all that stuff. And so here we go. What I want you to first start with is getting your sprite or your enemy. Make sure it's named, right? Very important. But then also, let's get some control on this thing. And you can see here that I do in fact have him on a platform. So the moment that I test this, you see it just stays right there, which is fine. But I want it to kind of move. And I want it to move on its own, not with me, but I still need to add some behaviors to it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is add the platform behavior, okay? And that platform behavior is just going to do exactly what you think. If this platform right here, this gray, excuse me, was like hilly and maybe like a pair of steps or something kind of oblong, this snake would stick to that platform. So even if I had it patrolling back and forth over a really long, bumpy terrain, it would always recognize the platform and follow it accordingly, okay? So here we go. We have that snake. We have it on a platform and everything is good. I added the platform behavior, which is fine, but what I want to show you now is, see that? When I move, he moves. It's kind of cool. It's a bit of a cool dance. Look at that, even jumps a little bit. But that is not what we want, right? And it's doing that because the moment I put that platform behavior on it, if you come over here, you look down and there you see default controls is checked. I want to uncheck that. By unchecking that, you see down here in the bottom left, it says default controls, if enabled, arrow keys control movement. Otherwise, use the simulate control. You know, and I really like that about Construct is it gives you those little hints like that. So now the arrow keys will not work, and now I can actually make things happen here with this fella in the event sheet, okay? But before we do that, we need to do a little forward thinking about what this fella is going to do. And I'm going to add 2 instance variables. And where's my instance variable? Here we go. The first one that I want to add, I'm going to call it patrol. Now, just think about a police officer. Think about those guards in front of the Queen's Castle or what have you. They just simply patrol an area, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And that's fine. So this is going to be a number, and I want to keep it at 0. And here it is. So basically, leaving that number at 0 is our way of kind of doing a true-false. Now, we could have done a Boolean, but there's other elements I want to add to this. So you'll see that we're going to control the movement, which direction this little fella's going, by using this patrol instance variable. The other thing that I want to add, just because I think it'd be neat to kind of put that little extra out there, is I'm going to do something called hit points. Because I think some of you right now have a lot of happening, right? So, but on impact. So right now, if I were to shoot that snake, one of my quote unquote bullets, I think I have rocks now, hitting that snake is going to make it explode. I want to go ahead and say maybe it takes, I don't know, I'm going to say 3. So by adding these hit points, so 3 of them, now I have to hit this little snake with a rock 3 times for it to explode like it does. And that's kind of neat because you can maybe put its own energy up here, its own health. Maybe you can have it change colors now if it's getting low on energy. There's just many things that you can do by using hit points versus just that hit and destroy option. And I'm going to get into that. But I just figured since we're in the instance, we can go ahead and work on that. So there you have it. We put in those 2 things and we're just about there, okay? But now I want to go ahead and add that little area, right? I'm going to call it fenced in. I just want to fence this little bugger in right now just so he stays within this area without falling off. And I'm going to do that by, if you think about how hotspots work in either Storyline or Captivate, right? So we have hotspots or invisible buttons or click boxes, whatever it's called. They are items that you can click as the user, they're items that you interact with, but you don't see them as the user. And that's exactly what I want to happen here. I want to go ahead and put some fences up that the game space and the user are technically interacting with, but we don't see, okay? So first thing first is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make another sprite, right? Sprites are our thing. I want to change the size to this. I'm going to do about, say, 25 and 125 is fine. Red is okay. I want to be able to see it, so I'm just going to, whoa! I'm actually going to go ahead and fill that in with red. Excuse me. And I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it Patrol Fence. All right? Nothing fancy. I'm just going to name it exactly what it is. And I'm going to put it here. Let's see, something like that. And because of what, and I'm going to show you, like, there's some benefits to the way Construct does things. So I have this one fence. I have it named, which is fine. And I'm going to work with this, and then I'll show you kind of the benefit here. But as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and play this. Awkward red thing right here. Okay, look at that. Weird. Yes, there's no doubt that this snake is going to see this, right? And I could, if I want, if you remember what we did with the bullets and everything else, like we made it a solid if we wanted it to be something that was some sort of collision. And that's all fine and good, but the last thing I want is my guy to have to run around, jump over this, right? I want to make it a little bit more natural. So what you can do with that is always, just like in Captivate and in Storyline, once something is selected, you see the properties adapts to it. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look for properties. And what I want to do is, see this one here says initially visible. I want to uncheck that. And then again, I get my little thing down here. It says choose whether the object is visible when the layout starts. Unchecking that means it's not going to be visible when the layout starts. So let me go ahead and play that. Look, it's there. We know it's there, but we can't see it. And that's really a benefit to us right now. Now, the other thing I want to point out is this enable collisions. Okay, this is by default is going to be checked. That is awesome. We want that. And the reason that we want to say enable collisions is because with this checked, it means we're going to be able to call to it in our event sheet as a means for this thing to actually interact with it. So make sure that is checked, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it this way. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to put up my fence, right? So I'm going to put this fence here because I want that fenced in area to be between this little gray thing. This is what's great. So I made all of those adjustments. I made sure that it was initially visible. I did the collision thing. Now when you come over here and see my second one that I just copy and pasted, it's called Patrol Fence. That's what I want. My initially visible is unchecked. And then, of course, my enable collision. So everything that I did kind of carried over, which is cool. Otherwise, if I would have made 2 of these, I would have had to make certain changes later, right? I would have to do it twice. But sometimes like this, just to be able to copy and paste makes it a little bit more efficient so you know everything is carrying over, okay? So there you have it. Let's just double check this. I got my snake and I got my fence. All right, cool. Now, now everything's set up for basically what we need this to do on this end of it. Now we need to jump into our event sheet. And in the event sheet, the first thing that I want to show you that I think is going to be value is I don't want to add an event yet, okay? Because everything that I'm about to do is going to be referencing the patrol and the snake, okay? So I'm going to say not add event or add comment, but add group. And in adding group, I'm just going to call this Snake Patrol. Like a cool movie, Snake Patrol. And then that's it. So I'm just going to do that. And what happens is you're not going to notice it right away, but the moment that I start building some events here, it's basically going to make like a folder. So I can have a bunch of stuff going on in here, and if it's in the way, if I start getting a little too overwhelmed with everything that's going on, I can just bloop, and it goes away, which again, you'll see here shortly. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is reference those variables that I made, those instant variables, right? So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to say add event. And I'm going to look from a snake, and I'm going to do compare instance variable, right? Because I know I have that instance variable. And the interesting thing about that is there's not much. This is very similar to Storyline and Captivate. You could really open up these kind of windows and read a lot of these to see which one you should use. Not many of these, if at all. I think this is the only one, or this one here, has anything to do with variables. So if you're going to be referencing a variable, jump to the instance variable section and boop, compare variable. Pick the variable that you want, and I'm going to say patrol, and I'll leave it at 0 at first. Okay? So what I'm going to say right now, I'm just keep having a conversation with yourself. I'm going to say if that instance variable on the snake is equal to 0, I want to go ahead and do exactly what Construct said for us to do. I'm going to use that simulate control. So I'm going to go ahead and say add action and grab my snake. And I know which one I want to use. I'm actually going to type it there we go. Simulate control. And we're going to go with, I'm right-handed, so I'll go with right. Okay, done. So if it's 0, I want somebody to make it look like they are pressing the right arrow and it's moving to the right. Now, first thing that we notice that here is my snake is pointed to the left. You see that? We know that the snake is on the left on the stage, and we also know that it's on the left right here. So if it's going to the right, we need to mirror that thing so it looks like it's going to the right. Okay, so I'm going to add another action here and go ahead and say snake set mirrored, and I want it to be mirrored. Okay, and that's really, if you think about what mirrored is and not mirrored, I want it to go to the right, but it's facing to the left, so I need a darn mirror. That's easy. Okay, so there we go. Now this should work, right? So basically what I'm saying is it is 0. We know it's 0. We can easily see that it's 0 by going back here, clicking on the snake, going to the instance variables, and patrol is equal to 0. See that? So by me turning this on right now, we should see this snake shoot off into this direction and face that direction, right? Oh, there he goes. See you later. Bye. All right, so we know that's working. Here's the beauty of working with technology. We know that's working. And we also know that we need to do the opposite, right? So we need to simulate left. And we need to set it not mirrored. So all I'm going to do is right click. I am going to copy. And then I'm going to paste. Notice that it stayed in this snake patrol thing, right? Look at that. Where'd it go? I don't know. Oh my gosh. There it is. Okay, great. Change everything. So now if snake is patrol is equal to what? 1. And I'm going to say 1 because darn it, isn't that just the way computers work? Zeros and ones, stuff like that. But that's, say, true, false, whatever you want. Just kind of figure that this is on, this is off, this is true, this is false, whatever you want to do. But now if it's 1, I don't want the snake to go to the right. I want the snake to go to the left. And I don't want it to be mirrored. I want it to be not mirrored. And then I'm going to hit done. So that should be the beauty of it. Now, I can't obviously do anything just yet because there's nothing happening that's going to set that to 1, right? Like right now, there's no collision, there's no prompt, there's absolutely nothing in this trigger or on the stage that is going to enact this from going from 0 to 1. So, as you can imagine, that's what we're going to do next. We are going to put some sort of event out there to ensure that there is a collision or something that makes this go from 0 to 1. Now, before I do that, there's something that you should absolutely notice. If you've gone this far, you need to make sure, okay, that your I'll call it your enemy. We'll just stick with enemy. That's your enemy. And if in fact that you've put fences on or barriers or any type of container, it is all on the same layer, okay? So what I did is I lock my health one, right? My health is here, and I have 2 of them. If I were to put my fence on the health layer and then my snake on the game space layer, they would not collide, okay? There would be no collision, and that's not something that we can do. Something you might want to do is get into the habit of, if you see here, I locked my health layer. So if you want to get in the habit of that, that is okay to do. That way everything is in the game space that you need it to be, and you're not going to have some sort of error and not sure why it's not working and forgetting that maybe it's a layer situation, okay? So coming back here, I still want to add another event. Of course, you probably already know that the event is going to be when the snake collides with the patrol fence. Right? There we go. Now I want things to happen, but I want multiple things to happen, okay? So yes, I want the snake to do stuff and things when it collides with the patrol fence, but it's not just one thing, and it's not a multiple of things, and it's also, if you think about it, it's going to be like a hey, check and see, right? Because if the snake collides with the patrol fence and the instance variable is a 0, I want it to do this. If the snake collides with the patrol fence and the instance variable is a 1, I want it to do this, okay? So to do that, we take this original action that we've done, we right click, and you're going to want to make sure, see that green arrow? I don't know why that's there. Why is that green arrow there? I don't know. But you want to right click kind of in that area, because if you do it over here, see how it says edit at the top? But if you're all the way at the end, it says add. We want that add, because we're going to add some sub-events to that initial event. Okay? So I'm going to add a sub-event, and I'm going to say if the snake, okay, patrol, so is equal to 0, okay? So if the snake patrol is equal to 0, I want that snake to set value of the patrol to 1. Okay? So think about it. We're saying if that snake, boom, hits one of those fences, its construct is going to be like, all right, check the instance variable. It's 0. Okay, change it to 1. That's it. That's all you got to do. So now you're thinking the complete opposite needs to happen, right? So now we need to say if the snake bumps into that fence and the instance variable is 1, we need to somehow figure out how to get that darn thing back to 0, right? What we're talking about here is an if-else statement and or a conditional statement, okay? What I don't want you to do is use the word condition, okay? Because you're going to, for those of you that are, what do I want to say, coders or have done this before, you're going to probably see the word condition and want to jump on that. But you don't, okay? What you're doing is just, you're going to add another sub-event, okay? And this time with the sub-event, I don't want to go ahead and say anything about the snake, because I want to go in here into the system, and I want to pick the most favorite thing that every nerdy coder likes is an else, right? Else statements are just the best. If else, actually, but. So else, now I'm going to say if the snake, I'm going to go ahead and set value of patrol to 0. Okay? And then go ahead, walk it out, talk it through. If the snake collides with the patrol fence and it's 0, set it to 1. Else, meaning if it's anything but 0, which means it's 1, go ahead and set that snake back to 0. Okay? So really what we've done with this patrol is made it absolutely automatic by creating an instance variable and making that instance variable jump between 0 and 1. We change it by it colliding with an invisible fence, so that little bugger should, at this point, bounce back and forth between those two fences and without us doing anything, right? So let's just see what happens here. Oh, there he goes. Hey, get back here. Whoa. There he goes. What's he going to do? Whoa! Isn't that great? Ew. Oh, that's right. I deleted that. Darn it. But there you go. He's off and running. Or he's slithering away. Oh, gosh. No! Okay, cool. Whatever. It works. Now remember, just whatever your platform is, because we put a platform on this, if you have like a big hill or you have like a boat or whatever it is, this little enemy is definitely going to go around and chase and be all that kind of things. Now you can do things, remember. Right now, if I look at my guy, his platform properties are identical to my snake. So if you wanted, we could really speed this little bugger up, you know, 777. We could do just a bunch of things here, right? Um, and it's if everything you can or want to do, go ahead and do it. If not, it's okay. I definitely don't want to make them that fast. I'm going to make them go actually a little bit slower. So 225. Okay. So there we go. So there is that.